Looks like at this moment we're a little more than 90% full on the oxidizer on the first stage, ticking up towards that 80% mark on the second stage. We'll be counting down all the way till about 2 or 3 minutes, as John and I just said, until everything is loaded in Falcon 9.
Heaters closing out.
And then we will be go for launch.
Dragon has transitioned to configure for terminal count.
Vehicle tanks pressing for strong back retract.
We're pressurizing the Falcon 9 tanks. We're going to open the clamp arm around the second stage and begin to retract the strong back. We'll move back about 2 degrees. That'll get us to the liftoff position. At liftoff, the strong back will then recline about 45 degrees away.
Started.
Stage 2, RP1 bleed.
Launch director called out the strong back retract has started. On the left, you'll see it go back just a couple of degrees.
Stage 1, RP1 bleed.
We are just 4 minutes away from liftoff. Again, at this moment, Bob and Doug are really just laser focused on those displays. They have insight directly into Dragon and the Falcon 9. They're able to see where their fuel loading is at, how everything's progressing down with the count.
AFTS final setup started.
Three and a half minutes from launch.
And the strong back is now reclining away from the Falcon 9.
MVAC igniter purges. Pogo bleed.
Dragon has transitioned to terminal count and is on internal power.
Stage 1, LOX load closed out.
Okay, we're at T-minus 2 minutes, 42 seconds. Stage 1 LOX load is closed out. Stage 2 will continue to load for about another half a minute or so. Once we get the completion of Stage 2 LOX loading, we have to vent down the line, so you'll see another large white cloud coming off of the strong back. That'll be normal. That'll happen around
transitioning to
T-minus 1 minute and 40 seconds. We're going on internal power now.
Just a few seconds away from the Stage 2 LOX load being complete. It's been almost 9 years since we've been in this position. A lot of work done by thousands of people to get to this point. All our eyes focused on 2 now.
Stage 2 LOX load is closed out. Propellant fills are complete.
Dragon is in auto idle.
Stage 2 LOX load complete. All fuel, all oxidizer on Falcon 9. 1 minute, 34 seconds to go till launch.
Ground gas closeouts is starting.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Dragon is in countdown.
FTS is armed for launch.
Under a minute now, the FTS, the flight termination system, has been armed.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
SpaceX Dragon, we're go for launch. Let's light this candle.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Stage 1 tanks pressing for flight.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Lift.
Propulsion is nominal.
T plus 30 seconds into this historic mission. Flying crew on board Dragon and Falcon 9, and look at them go.
Falcon power telemetry nominal.
M1D throttle down.
We're throttling down to get ready for the period of maximum dynamic pressure. We're in the throttle bucket. Reports say all systems are go.
Vehicle is supersonic.
We've exceeded Mach 1 on the Falcon 9.
M1D.
Heard acquisition of signal Bermuda. That's one of the other ground stations that they're using to get telemetry and data back from this spacecraft.
Stage 2 propulsion is still nominal.
A little over 4 minutes, 40 seconds into the flight. Bob and Doug flying at more than 5,600 miles
Dragon
per hour.
SpaceX nominal trajectory.
Already almost 200 miles
Nominal
downrange
trajectory.
from the Kennedy Space Center. Nominal trajectory continuing. And while they continue uphill, looks like we are getting a view of the first stage as well.
Yep, on your right screen, you can see that first stage with the grid fins deployed. It's making its way back to attempt to land on our drone ship, Of Course, I Still Love You Today. And we're just about a minute. Again, on your right screen is that first stage booster coming back towards our drone ship, Of Course, I Still Love You. We're about a minute away from entry burn.
Meanwhile, that second stage continuing to power Dragon into orbit. Again, if you're keeping an eye on that timer, that's going to continue to burn until 8 minutes and 44 seconds into flight. So a little over 2 minutes from now, we'll hear the call out SECO. It'll then be a little
Stage
under,
2 propulsion
or a
is
little
still
over,
good.
A little over 3 minutes until Dragon physically separates from the second stage of the Falcon 9 after the upper
Dragon
stage gets a
SpaceX
chance.
nominal trajectory.
Dragon Tappies, nominal trajectory.
Continuing to check in with Bob and Doug as they are on a nominal trajectory. Just about 10 seconds away from that first stage, starting that entry burn on your right screen. We should be able to see that view live.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And there is that entry burn beginning. This burn lasts about 36 seconds long.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
While that entry burn continues, we're just about a minute away from SECO. We'll have a number of events all happen in rapid succession. It'll be the second engine cutoff.
Stage 1
We'll
entry
be
burn
looking
shut
for
down.
that stage 1 landing burn shortly after.
Yeah, actually, just within a few seconds of each other. It's such a cool view on your left screen, seeing Bob and Doug on Dragon. Right now, you can see the displays that they are seeing right now themselves.
Terminal guidance.
MVAC throttle step.
We are coming up 25 seconds or so away from SECO, or second engine cutoff.
This is also the point where Bob and Doug are experiencing their highest G-force. We're seeing the counter tick up to right about
Stage
1
3.8.
transonic.
Copy, Shannon.
You heard Shannon, so that just means they're in their final abort zones. If they were to abort at this point, it would either be an abort to orbit or to land off the coast of Ireland. Standing by for second
Stage 1 landing
cutoff
startup.
confirmation.
MVAC throttle step. MVAC shut down.
Stage 1 landing layer.
Confirmation of SECO's second engine cutoff.
Now we are waiting for our first stage to make its way to our drone ship. Of course, I still love you.
Dragon Spacex nominal orbital insertion.
Did
Launch
get
escape system
confirmation
is disarmed.
nominal
Dragon
orbital
copy.
insertion.
Nominal
Stage
orbital
1 landing leg
insertion.
deploy.
And what you're seeing on your screen is a live view of our drone ship, where our first stage will be coming down. Looks like we lost that live view, but we'll wait for confirmation of that landing shortly here.
Falcon 9 first stage is successfully landed.
And
aboard
there you
full
can see on your screen, Falcon 9 has landed. This is the first Falcon 9 to carry
Acquisition of signal
humans to
Newfoundland.
orbit, so very exciting for us.
Smooth ride uphill, both stages of the Falcon 9 doing their job, placing Bob and Doug in orbit. I mean, this is a day, this is a historical day. This is us kicking off that new era of spaceflight that we've all been talking about and longing for since the space shuttle program came to an end in 2011.
Yes.
And the weather cooperated.
Yes, second time's a charm.
Right.
All right, so day for the history books. As you can see, we have lost some live signal there, but the mission still continues, and we're going to send it over to KSC to continue broadcasting live with you.
loss of signal Newfoundland.
Yeah, Jesse and Dan, we are just in awe over here. When I woke up this morning and looked at the weather forecast, I was like, man, we're going to be back here on Sunday, but we did it. The room cleared out. Everybody was outside watching, and inside the lights were shaking, the cameras were shaking. Lauren came back in with tears in her eyes. This is really amazing.
I can't believe it. I saw it with my own eyes. This is, I'm a little bit speechless. Just so grateful that we got them up there, and there's a lot more to go. But I'm so happy they're safe right now. I'm just so happy.
Yeah. Leland, you were talking about it. It's amazing what we can do when we work together.
Yes, American astronauts on an American rocket from American soil, showing you what Americans can do when we come together as a team and blast Doug and Bob off to the cosmos. This is what it's all about, and their families and everyone is working together to take them up to space safely. So I don't know what to say. That rocket fuel is still in my veins, and I want to go get on the rocket.
Well, it's too late now. Maybe the next one.
I know.
But we want to go over to Daryl at OSB2. He's there with the administrator, who hopefully has more words than we do, because we're still kind of speechless. Daryl?
Pretty incredible here, Marie, at the Operations Support Building, where a chorus of applause has been happening from the beginning of launch and throughout the various stages. Some very special guests were here to watch it. That includes President Donald Trump, Vice President Mike Pence, and NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine, who joins me now. And you were with the President and the Vice President. America's back, launching human astronauts again. Tell me how you feel about that, and tell me about the President watching launch and what happened there.
So this has been a long time coming. It's been 9 years since we've launched American astronauts on American rockets from American soil, and now it's done. We have done it. It's been way too long. I want to give a lot of credit to Charlie Bolden. He was my predecessor as the NASA administrator. He fought hard for this program at a time when it didn't get any support in Congress. We now have an administration that is fully supportive of our spaceflight initiatives, not just on the exploration, discovery, going to the moon, onto Mars, but also from a Space Force perspective. Our budgets are going up, things are strong, and today was just just an amazing day. You know, one of the things the President did right out of the gate when he became President is he created what's called the National Space Council, and he put the Vice President as chairman of the National Space Council. And on that National Space Council, you've got the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of Transportation, the Secretary of Education, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, all of these different amazing individuals that deal with space day in and day out. A lot of people don't realize how many parts of the federal government deal with space. And the Vice President invited those members of the National Space Council here as well. So we just had, and then we had members of Congress, bipartisan members of Congress, Republicans and Democrats, who have been involved in supporting this program, for a long time now. So I'll just tell you, I'm breathing a sigh of relief, but I will also tell you I am not going to celebrate until Bob and Doug are home safely. Tomorrow they're going to dock to the International Space Station. Tonight I'm heading to Houston to be at the Johnson Space Center when that happens. So it's a bit of a relief. The nose cone is now open. It's now deployed, which means that now we're going to go into some burns. We're going to have some phasing burns. We're going to have some boosting burns, and we're going to get as much as we can in alignment with the International Space Station as early as possible here. But also, I know it's hard, but the big thing that we need to do now is we got to get Bob and Doug, who have now gone through this exercise twice. They need to get some rest. But I can guarantee you there will be no rest for a good amount of time while they're up there in orbit.
And they are certainly on their way, and a lot of people joining us for this entire celebration and watching it. We just heard 10 million people watching live as this launch happened, and President Donald Trump becoming the third sitting president to watch a launch live from the Kennedy Space Center. The first.
To be clear, I think he's the only sitting president to watch American astronauts launch on a brand new rocket that has never launched before, and that's a big risk. He also said we're going to go to the moon by 2024. That means he's putting himself at risk to say, look, I'm going to be accountable, potentially, I'm going to be accountable to the initiatives that I put forward. And I think we have not had that kind of leadership for space in a very, very long time, and we're so grateful for it.
What was it like watching the launch with the president? How did he react?
Oh, I'll tell you, it's obviously something that is near and dear to him. He said it a year and a half ago. He put it in the State of the Union speech. He said, we're going to launch American astronauts on American rockets from American soil. And of course, I was like, in my head, I'm thinking, we better get after this. Of course, we've worked overtime to make it happen. We might be a little behind schedule, but we got it done, and we got it done safely. We're knocking on wood, but so far so good. It's looking good.
You personally, Jim, as that rocket was lifting off and you felt that rumble?
Yeah.
What'd you feel? What'd you experience?
Well, I was praying. I'm not going to lie to you. I was praying. I was praying for Bob and Doug. I was praying for their families. I was praying for their safe return, even though they're just going. But man, I'll tell you, it was, I've heard that rumble before, but it's a whole different feeling when you've got your own team on that rocket, and they are our team. They are America's team. This is Launch America. This is everything that America has to offer in its purest form. And times are tough right now. There is no doubt. We've got the coronavirus pandemic. We have other challenges as a country. But I hope this moment in time is an opportunity for everybody to reflect on humanity and what we can do when we work together, when we strive, and when we achieve. And if this can inspire a young child to become the next Elon Musk or the next Jeff Bezos or the next Sir Richard Branson, then that's what this is all about.
Or the next Jim Bridenstine.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't put me in that category, but.
Well, we appreciate your leadership for the space agency at this time, and congratulations on an amazing day in the launch.
Thank you. It's been a great ride.
All right, very good. Marie, we'll send it back to you in the studio.
Doug and Bob are on course to arrive at the International Space Station tomorrow, May 31st at 10:27 a.m. Eastern Time. And we'll be staying on the air for continuous live coverage along the entire ride to the station. So though our coverage here is concluding, we will turn it over to the teams in Hawthorne and Houston to take us through the next phases of the Demo 2 mission, all the way through hatch opening and a welcome ceremony on the space station for Bob and Doug tomorrow.
That's right. And as you follow along, we invite you to tune into a post-launch news conference that's happening here at 6:30 this evening Eastern Time on NASA TV. We'll have NASA and SpaceX leaders here to take questions live on this unprecedented achievement in human spaceflight. And in addition to NASA TV, you can follow along always on Twitter at @NASA and nasa.gov for mission updates as it progresses. Here now are highlights from the mission so far. May 30th, 2020. Remember this day. You'll have this memory forever. The day America returned astronauts to orbit from U.S. soil.
Wow, we're making history again.
Let's go.
So rises a new era of American spaceflight, and with it the ambitions of a new generation continuing the dream.
Dragon Spacex, we are ready for your verbal count. Hold the cabin mic in front of your face with your mouth visible to the camera and count verbally to 15.
One, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
And Dragon SpaceX, we will give you a call when we're ready.
Dragon copies.
Dragon SpaceX, you are go to begin the media event.
Dragon copies. Well, everyone, welcome aboard Dragon. My name is Doug. Next to me is Bob. You probably know him. We're so glad to be with you this evening and welcome you on board Dragon. Got a couple things we want to talk about first before we kind of show you around. The first is kind of a tradition we've had over the years with spacecraft going way back to the Mercury era. And then a tradition that's been carried on ever since with all our space vehicles, including the Soyuz. We're given the honor to name this capsule. I know most of you at SpaceX especially know it as Capsule 206, but I think all of us thought that we could maybe do a little bit better than that. So without further ado, we would like to welcome you aboard Capsule Endeavour. We chose Endeavour for a few reasons. One, because of this incredible Endeavour NASA, SpaceX, and the United States has been on since the end of the shuttle program back in 2011. The other reason we named it Endeavour is a little more personal to Bob and I. We both had our first flights on Shuttle Endeavour, and it just meant so much to us to carry on that name. That's what we decided to go with. So we hope you enjoy that name, and once again, welcome on board.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome aboard Endeavour, the SpaceX vehicle headed to the International Space Station. Today, we accomplished the first flight off the Florida coast in quite some time, and Doug and I were really proud to have an opportunity to be a part of that. We're doing it in a brand new spaceship, a spaceship that's a lot different than its namesake Endeavour, the space shuttle, in that it has touch display screens that allow us to accomplish most of the interfacing requirements that we have. We'll have if Doug pans over and points at the display in front of me, you can see the forward view that we had during the maneuvers that we most recently did. You can look out the window. It looks like the centerline camera doesn't have a lot of content on it now. We're kind of pointed into space so that the windows can see the Earth below us. But we've got the capability to interface with the vehicle, and it's kind of interesting. There's a command. This little button over here is actually what the commands are for our displays. One thing that does get lost is there is a extensive button panel down below as well. So over on this side, we can turn the displays on and off, as well as send some commands for some contingency situations. On the other side, we have the ability to deploy chutes and things like that on entry. So we do have some buttons, but the primary interface is these displays. So nice, new, modern cockpit that we've got for our compared to our namesake, the Space Shuttle Endeavour. I'm going to migrate a little bit away from our seats here, and Doug from his seat is going to continue to try to follow me so you can tell what can be seen from the seat that he sits in. So from his seat, when he is inside in the vehicle, strapped in, this is what his view actually looks like. You can see a window off to the one side. We each have a window that we can view out and see what's going on outside. That was exciting on ascent for us to be able to see the arm rotate away from the pad, and that's when we both, I think, knew that we were going to launch today. So that was super cool. I've got one on my side as well. The hatch that we came in is the hatch that's right behind me. It is a little bit of a tight quarters, but I'm going to try to demonstrate some of the capability that we have now that we're in zero gravity. So I think I was requested to do a backflip. I'm going to kind of do a side spin, which is a little bit of a permutation on that request. So hopefully you can see what it's like to actually float in zero gravity, and Doug and I are super excited that we got the opportunity to do this again today, even before the end of May. So that was super cool. We did, it turns out, end up with one stowaway on board our vehicle when we launched today. It was not just Doug and I who accomplished the launch here. We do have an Apatosaurus aboard. We both have two boys who are super interested in dinosaurs. And we collected up all the dinosaurs between the two houses, and Trimmer, the Apatosaurus, got the vote from the boys to make the trip into space today with us. And so that was a super cool thing for us to get a chance to do for both of our sons, who I hope are super excited to see their toys floating around with us on board. I'm sure they would rather be here given the opportunity, but hopefully they're proud of this as well. Okay, as we work our way towards one of the windows, unfortunately it's getting a little bit dark, but I don't know if Bob can pan over here. We just passed off of the coast of Newfoundland, and we're headed over to over the Atlantic right now. I don't know if you can get a good picture of that. Anyway, hopefully you enjoy that view as we pass over the Atlantic, and I think with that we will work ourselves back into the seats and wrap things up for this evening. So Doug's there making a nice big smile for the camera. I hope you enjoyed the trip today with us on board the Dragon capsule Endeavour with our friend Trimmer, the Apatosaurus, and Doug and I. We just would like to thank SpaceX, we'd like to thank NASA, and we'd like to thank the American people for the opportunity today. And we're really proud of the entire team that was able to accomplish human spaceflight again from the Florida coast. Just a wonderful experience. Doug and I are just so proud to be a part of it, and just want to thank everybody who gave us this opportunity and worked so hard to make this happen today.
So with that, I think it'll be good night from Capsule Endeavour. Good night to everyone at NASA, at SpaceX, and the United States, and congratulations to the teams that got us into orbit. And we're looking forward to seeing Chris Cassidy and his Russian colleagues on board the International Space Station tomorrow morning.
Good night, Megan and Theo.
And Karen and Jack.
And Dragon SpaceX, thank you so much for that. I know everyone really enjoyed seeing Dragon and seeing how much all of you are, or the two of you are enjoying it.
It was our pleasure, Laura.
In case if you've just joined us, that was our first look inside the Crew Dragon capsule with Bob and Doug. Our first opportunity to hear what their experience has been like thus far. I think I can speak on behalf of anyone that's involved in this program that we're really honored that you guys chose such a meaningful name for the capsule. And we're very proud to have Bob and Doug, our favorite dads in space, on board Capsule Endeavour. As of now, we have completed 3 of 5 major burns, and as you heard Bob and Doug mention, they're going to be going to bed pretty soon. But we have one more thing coming up before then.
Yeah, and hi everybody, I'm Leah Cheshire of NASA, here to journey with you through these overnight hours as the crew is still on their way to the International Space Station. We've got some big things coming up. In about 45 minutes, we'll be looking for the crew to have their PMC, or Private Medical Conference. These are standard for every astronaut flying in space, and they actually date back to the Apollo missions.
Well, we're really happy to have you on board. I'm sure Dan was exhausted. And yeah, like we mentioned before, we're going to be bringing you coverage throughout the entire mission, overnight, yes, all the way through until Bob and Doug actually hop on board the International Space Station early tomorrow morning. It is a 19-hour journey to the station, and at this point we are approaching T plus 3 hours and 30 minutes. So it's safe to say they've got a ways to go, but as we just saw from that awesome look inside the capsule, it seems like they're getting pretty cozy in there.
Yeah, that's a pretty good view. I mean, we got to see the whole thing. We got to see the screens and their seats, which will turn into beds. Mm-hmm. Correct?
They'll stay they will sleep in their seats, but the seats will keep the shape that they're in currently. So they will be in a bit of a chair position, different than their beds on the International Space Station. But yeah, so those PMCs, or Private Medical Conference, is basically the last thing that they have to do before they get to take a well-deserved sleep.
Yeah, they'll be able to talk to medical doctors, NASA flight doctors, they're flight surgeons as they're sometimes called on the ground, talking through their health and getting the feedback on their current status. All of the crew members have a flight surgeon assigned to their mission. The flight surgeon is dedicated to their health care throughout the duration of the mission, including training, on orbit, and when they return. That means providing remote care to the astronauts while they're in flight or on the station.
I think it's safe to say that, all of us that have been experiencing the global pandemic that we have receiving something so important as healthcare virtually, it was something new for a lot of us. But, this type of healthcare procedure is standard procedure for NASA astronauts because, of course, we have to be looking out for any changes in their health and just general health checks while they're on station and, the entire journey up to station. So I think this is just another...
Dragon SpaceX for camera settings.
Go ahead, Laura.
Just wanted to let you know that all the interior cameras are off and we will leave them in this configuration until post-sleep.
Okay, we copy. You'll leave the interior cameras in the off position until post-sleep.
That is correct, and we have also powered off the floater camera, so you are go to store it if you would like.
Thanks, Laura. We'll put that in work and get the floater camera stowed away and have it ready for tomorrow. And just wanted to say, good to talk to you from low Earth orbit finally, instead of just from upstairs or downstairs.
Yeah, I agree, Bob. It's nice to hear your voice in orbit rather than upstairs.
I did just want to make sure that for solidarity purposes, there's no coffee drinking or tea drinking going on down there, right?
I have to take the mask off to drink coffee, so, some coffee.
So that back and forth that we just heard there between Crew Dragon and Mission Control here in Hawthorne, just letting them know that all the cameras are now turned off and they'll stay turned off until after the post-sleep, or basically until Bob and Doug are wide awake tomorrow morning. And that's just for privacy purposes, obviously, while they're doing their health check and sleeping. And you may have heard them mention the upstairs, downstairs. That is referring to our training facilities here in Hawthorne. We actually gave you a pretty cool look into those training facilities earlier in the webcast, so you might want to rewind your feed to catch up on to see what that actually looked like in person. But essentially, Bob and Doug, like we've been saying, they've been here on site in Hawthorne for months. They are part of the SpaceX team, really hitting a home run in terms of they're here training with our team. We all work as one, and it has been that way for months. They have gone through rehearsals and practices of every possible procedure that they would go through, and so that's where that upstairs downstairs comes in, because Mission Control would be down here as they're walking through the procedures in the upstairs training capsule. And of course, they're not allowed to drink any caffeine until they get to station, so that's a nice little thought that mission controllers might also be withholding in solidarity, but a difficult task, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's been a long day for everybody, so I can understand where, they might have to sneak one in and not tell the crew.
Yeah.
Who knows? We'll see.
So like we said before, we're going to the Bob and Doug, our dads in space, will be beginning their private medical conferences. Again, those are just standard for every astronaut flying in space. It happens regularly, and it's just an indication their opportunity to connect with their flight surgeon. Keep in mind that the flight surgeon is assigned to their mission specifically. That flight surgeon is dedicated to their health care throughout the duration of the entire mission, including training while they're still on Earth, while they're on orbit, and throughout their entire return. So that basically means that not only do they get remote medical care while they are in space, but it also means that the flight surgeon will actually be on board the recovery vessel when they splash down in the ocean. And that flight surgeon will be the first person that they really get the chance to talk to, aside from the recovery crew members themselves. But as soon as they emerge from the capsule post splashdown, they get another medical evaluation right there on the recovery vessel.
Yes, and so we, as we mentioned, are on our way to the International Space Station in the Crew Dragon, now named Endeavour, and keeping an eye on everything happening in Mission Control Houston for us is Courtney Beasley. We're going to toss it to Courtney. Tell us what's up, what's going on over there?
Thanks, Leah. Such an exciting day, and I'm happy to join you for coverage into the overnight hours from Johnson Space Center. Here in Mission Control Houston, the Orbit 3 team of flight controllers is on console, led by Flight Director Rebecca Wingfield. Flight controllers here in Houston are continuing to alternate the flight control rooms they are using from shift to shift to prevent contact between the members of one shift to the next. At this hour, the International Space Station crew is asleep. The trio, NASA astronaut and station commander Chris Cassidy and Roscosmos cosmonauts Anatoly Ivanishin and Ivan Wagner, went to sleep around 4:30 p.m. Central Time, just a little over an hour ago. They'll continue that sleep period until around 1 a.m. Central Time on Sunday morning, ready to begin an exciting day of work. Then around 5:35 a.m. Central Time, Cassidy has a rendezvous conference with ground controllers to review rendezvous procedures that the Crew Dragon crew will be executing later in the morning. He'll then move to begin to set up tools, and that will be just the start of a long day before the hooks are driven to form a hard mate between Crew Dragon and the International Space Station. Cassidy will then work in tandem with Bankin and Hurley to equalize pressure to ensure there's a tight seal between Crew Dragon and the International Space Station before they open the hatch to greet their new crewmates who will become members of the Expedition 63 crew at the time they float into the Harmony module. For now, all systems are a go on the International Space Station side, so back to you, Leah and Kate at Hawthorne.
Thanks, Courtney. We'll keep checking in throughout the night as Bob and Doug continue to make their way to the International Space Station.
Looks like right now, based on the ground tracker that we just saw on your screen, they are over Central Africa. So it's pretty incredible how quickly, when you think about it, how quickly they are traveling. You know, I said maybe, I guess probably 20 minutes ago, they were over entering the coast of California, and now they're already in Africa. So it's quite incredible to think that they are going
Dragon, SpaceX
so
for
incredibly
PMC.
fast in their pursuit of the International Space Station.
Go ahead.
Yes, we're setting up a PMC here on your timeline. It's in about 15 minutes. You'll have about 15 minutes for that conference.
Copy that. We can start early or whenever they're ready.
So there we heard that Bob and Doug are ready to begin their private medical conference. Even though they might be a little early, I think that might be the theme of Bob and Doug, is that whenever, they might be ready early and they want to go. I remember watching the webcast both today and on Wednesday prior to launch, and both days they just went right in the capsule a couple minutes.
And Dragon SpaceX will work to get that set up as early as possible, and we'll give you a call when we have set up for it.
Sounds good, Laura. Thank you.
I hate to say I'm never usually as early on time as Bob and Doug, but if I were them, let's go ahead and do it. Let's have some more free time, maybe get a little extra rest before I go to bed.
Yeah,
why not?
I would imagine it certainly had something to do with the excitement that was building. I can't imagine them, the feeling that they had going through everything again today and then getting into the capsule and saying, all right, today is the day that we're going to go to space. And you know what? We're there.
I know. I can't imagine sitting still for the amount of time that they have to from the time they board Dragon until they finally lift off, and just having to wait, as excitement continues to build. But you're just still on the launch pad, so.
Yeah, for sure. And as we saw in that little tour of Crew Dragon, we could see that while there was enough room for for Bob to do a backflip, it was still, not exactly enough space to really stretch out as much as they might want on a regular basis. So yeah, the confinement there, they're working around it. It's still pretty roomy, but it is definitely not a limo.
Well, it's not too bad, though. For 19 hours, I've been on some pretty long road trips, and I think I'd rather take a 19-hour trip in the Crew Dragon than I would in a minivan, so it's not so bad.